today I discuss about the School of Linguistics and major branches of linguistics. Linguistics is the study of language as a universal and recognizable part of human behavior. It aims it aims to analyze and describe language and how it is organized to meet human needs. In addition to its function, in the late 19th century, four linguistic schools emerged in Europe with different approaches to the study of language. Functionalism, structuralism, generativism, and cognitivism. Each school has its own distinct approach to the study of language. The structuralists believe that language can be analyzed in terms of its component parts, while functionalists focus on the role of language and communication. Generative grammarians aim to describe the rules that underlie all utterances, while cognitive linguists focus on the mental processes involved in language use. Functionalism. Functionalism is a linguistic school that is concerned with the functions of language in society. It is interested in how language is used to communicate meaning and how it is influence social interaction. Functionalists believe that language is a tool that humans use to interact with each other and that it plays an important role in sharing our social world. Functionalists have identified three main functions of language, which is communication, control, and representation. Communication. The primary function of language is to communicate information and ideas between people in order to achieve some kind of shared understanding. Functionalists emphasize that language is a means by which people communicate with each other. Language is not an end itself, but rather a tool for getting from one point to another. Without the ability to communicate using language, human interaction would be very different. Control. Language is also a means of controlling the actions, feelings, and behavior of others. How we use language can shape the behavior of others and the way they respond to us. If a person uses language to maintain distance between himself and others, he is likely to experience less social interaction. Expression, representation rather, in linguistics refers to the way that spoken language is presented in the mind. With the advances in technology, communication has become more important than ever before. The ability to communicate effectively can be the difference between success and failure in many aspects of life. For example, the mentalist suggests that language is presented in the mind as a set of mental symbols. These symbols respond to the sounds and meaning of words. Mentalists believe that these symbols are combined according to rules to create sentences. Accordingly, it is important to understand the different ways people communicate and how to best represent oneself in order to be successful. Structuralism. Structuralism in linguistics, structuralism is an approach that emphasizes the study of language as a system of rules and components. Structuralists believe that all languages have the same basic structure and that this structure is a tool for communication and that it can be studied scientifically. Then, terms structuralism refers to a framework for the study of linguistics and other types of human behavior. Structuralists emphasize the role that language plays in shaping a person's perception of the world. Structuralists were interested in analyzing how languages are put together and how they work. They developed methods of analyzing languages such as phonetics, phonology, and morphology. These methods are still used today by linguists all over the world. Ferdinand de Saussure is often credited as the father of structuralism. He argued that the meaning of a word is not derived from its relation to another words in a sentences, but rather from its position in the overall system of language. This system is composed of two parts, langue and parole. Langue refers to the abstract underlying rules that covers a language, while parole refers to the actual usage of words, individual utterances, or speech act. Saussure also argued that language is a system of signs, each with its own meaning, and that a word meaning is not inherent in the word itself, but rather in its relation to other words in the system. Generativism. is a school of linguistics that emphasizes the role of grammar in language. Generative grammarians is a type of grammar that describe how sentences are formed in a language. Noam Chomsky, a prominent linguist, developed the theory of generative grammar. According to Chomsky, there are two levels of presentation and generative grammar: surface structure and deep structure. Surface structure is the level of which phonemes, sounds, are combined to form words, and deep structure in the level of which meaning is encoded. Generative grammarians seek to describe the rules that govern sentence and formation in a language. The theory of generative grammar has been extended to cover non-sentence level phenomena such as phonology, morphology, and syntax. The generative approach has also been applied to second language acquisition, psycholinguistics, and speech recognition. Chomsky theories have had a profound influence the study of language in general and speech recognition in particular. One of the main ideas in generative grammar is the deep structure of a sentence independent of each surface structure. Cognitivism. Cognitivism is the linguist school that emphasizes the mental processes involved in language use. Proponents of this approach argue that language is a tool for thinking and that understanding language requires understanding the mental processes that underlie it. One key area of research for cognitive linguists is how people learn new words. A recent study by cognitive linguist Ronald Lacker found that when people are first exposed to a new word, they tend to store it in their long-term memory as an isolated form with no meaning attached to it. Over time, however, they gradually develop a more sophisticated understanding of the word's meaning and how it fits into the larger context of the language. Major branches of linguistics. This is the part of the major branches of linguistics, which is applied linguistics, definition, sound system, structural patterns, word patterns, culture patterns, and lastly, situation. Applied linguistics. The area of linguistics known as applied linguistics is concerned with the practical application of linguistic theory. It leads to advancement in second language instruction. It makes use of the finding from linguistic research in the classroom. Modern linguistics are correct to emphasize the importance of language learning practical side. Definition. The area of linguistics that deals with using language, knowledge, in real-world situations such as speech therapy, translation, and teaching. Alan Dibes is his book, An Introduction to Applied Linguistics, From Practice to Theory, defines applied linguistics as the use of language-related research in a wide variety of fields, including language acquisition, language teaching, therapy, literacy studies, gender studies, speech therapy, discourse analysis, censorship, professional communication, media studies, translation studies, lexicography, and forensic linguistics. Applied linguistics in the world of William Grubb is a practice-driven discipline that addresses language-based problems in real-world contexts. It places a strong emphasis on the necessity of contrast between the mother tongue and the second language. It is much more challenging to learn a second language than one's mother tongue. When a child learns his native tongue, he develops certain speaking habits, but when he learns a second language, sound system. Every language has its own voice system. Some languages are similar to some contexts. Languages spoken in adjacent region are more similar than languages spoken in far-flung words. Urdu and Frisia are similar in many ways. English does not have a common accent. Structural patterns. Urdu has every different structure system than English. In Urdu, the verb came last, but in English, it comes after the subject. In English, interrogative sentences begin with auxiliary verb, but in Urdu, only word additional transform declarative sentences into interrogative sentence. It is helpful for the teacher to learn the patterns of structure in her two languages. Word pattern. On the other hand, loan words from English should be taught with correct pronunciation. Teachers should pay special attention to words such as school, Westcote, railway station, biscuits, and tobacco. Culture system. Every language has its own way of expression. They are the result of social culture, political, and geographic factor. These expressions are different to translate. Plural forms of verbs are sometimes used in order to show respect for a person. But there is no such rule in English. Situation. Circumstances are the factors that give meaning and significance to word when you say go without indicating where you go or going of praise can mean anything. When referring to a specific place, it gives a praises, context, and contribute to meaning of the sentence. That's all. Thank you.